What's up there, Travel Chronicles? Got some uploads I'm going to have to do here. I think I'm about out of space. But I had a pretty good weekend. So I wanted to give the recap of that. Set a record. Excited for that. And I got to do something historical. So check out the shirt here. USS LST 325. Was in Wheeling, West Virginia this weekend. I think it came in last Wednesday or something. It's open from Thursday to Tuesday. And I wanted to go see this ship, and I wanted my kids to go see it, but boy was working, and then he went to Pittsburgh, so he didn't get a chance. But daughter was off of school on Saturday, and the wife wanted to go, so we went over and walked the ship. And the reason it was important for me, the reason I wanted to do it, is because this is a ship that was active in World War II. It was actually on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. I don't know if it was directly there, just support, and ended up coming up later and kind of resupplying the beach, delivering tanks, delivering jeeps, those sorts of things. But if anything, it helped transport those initial troops in some way, shape, or form. It was part of that initial action. And the ship was in service at the same time. My dad was actually in service in the South Pacific on the USS San Jacinto, and he served, I think, between 42 and 45. He was drafted into the Navy. It was actually the same ship as former President George H.W. Bush. Now, he was an officer. My dad was actually cook third class, so they probably didn't intermingle, but possibility Dad made some food that he ate. You know what I mean? So we get on that. But on the walk through the ship, though, that was in Wheeling this weekend, the 325, they actually had a display set up for a cook third class, and it was Doris Miller, this guy from Texas, and he was, I don't think at the time he was a cook third class. He ended up becoming a cook third class, but he was a black guy, and during the attack on Pearl Harbor, he was actually moving people out of the way, getting them to safety, and then he got on the guns and actually took down a couple of planes. So pretty bad dude, overall, just helping get people out of the way and then taking some of the enemy down. And he got the Navy War Cross, or the Navy Cross, and probably should have got the Medal of Honor. To be honest with you, somebody should write that at some point, and it would be possible. I think, I'm not sure if the cross was posthumous or not, because he ended up dying like a year later when the ship that he was on sank in Guadalcanal. But it was like the only ship that sank as part of that action. But there were 900 crew on the ship, and I think it's 200 survived, but he wasn't one of them. But his actions in Pearl Harbor were actually captured in the movie Pearl Harbor. Cuba Gooding Jr. portrayed him in that movie, so that's kind of cool. And they actually had a display set up on the boat with him and the title cook third class, which is what my dad was. So I thought that was cool. The rest of the ship, it's a World War II ship. All the metal, some of the internal parts and stuff were, still from that time period. And this is a ship that was, it's like, how's that ship still around? Well, it went to Greece. It was in their fleet for a while, and then they gave it back. And there was a group of people that decided to, kind of keep it up and make it a, historical thing. It's actually planted in Evanston, Indiana, I think most of the year, but I don't know if it's just something that they do during summer. Every couple of summers, they take it up and down the Ohio River, and that's how it ended up in Wheeling. So, pretty neat. It's definitely neat to be on a ship that was active at the same time my dad was in the service. So, you know, just kind of that perspective of, you know, this wasn't the ship that he was serving on, but, you know, probably similar, you know, and you know, if you put yourself in that situation, you know, it's in the water at the same time he's in. So that's kind of cool, making that connection. And it's kind of cool making that connection to other people that experienced, you know, D-Day out of that ship. Just one thing that's going to stick in my mind, like I know it will, is looking at the cots, looking at the bed situation on that ship. So the enlisted Army guys were on the starboard side, I believe it was. That's how it worked out. And when you walk in that area where the beds are, it's like 3 or 4 rooms back to back, and each room has 24 beds in it. It's 4 high, so you got 4 guys sleeping on top of each other, and they're not beds. It's a metal bar that comes around with canvas tied to it, and that's what they slept on, was that. And I can't imagine sleeping on something like that and then waking up and it's like, hey, now it's time to storm the beaches of Normandy. You know, that some of those beds was the last place some of those guys in Normandy slept before they went on the beach. So, you know, when you think of things from that perspective, it's kind of humbling, you know, to walk where those guys walked, to be in that area where they were, you know, they woke up from their last dream and then went and did one of the bravest things that anybody on the planet's ever done. And they probably weren't complaining either. It's like, you know, this is just what it was. And even then, you know, what a massive upgrade probably from the old wooden ships, right? It's like, oh, we got a metal boat. Oh, look, we've got beds built into the side here that are, you know, suspended, you know, pretty rigidly. You know, they're pretty nice. And just absolutely zero space. 24 guys crammed in is in as tight of area as you can get. And I've been on some other boats before, where like the cramped sleeping quarters were like 9 in a group. You know, three sections of 3, one on the left, one in the middle, one on the right. And I thought that was crazy. And this was just like multiply that by 2 plus. You know, just very efficient. You know, scarily efficient. When it comes to thinking about how war works and what the motivation, what the impetus for what those boats were doing. You know, and then we went up on top, seen, you know, the guns where they were at. It's got some pretty decent sized weaponry on it. I mean, it's not something that you're going to go in and take down another ship, but you know, capable of probably defending itself against other boats or light aircraft. So neat to see. And just a way to kind of connect, I think, with the past a little bit. After that, we went to AMC. Saw our last movie there because they're shutting down the movie theater. Kind of sucks. Kind of sucked, you know, watching people there. They're still working, even though they know the finish line is the next day. You know, they're still selling tickets, you know, selling the popcorn, making the popcorn and stuff. You know, doing their job. Good for them. And I hope that they find something. I hope AMC does something for them, at least. Although AMC is in pretty bad shape itself, which is why they're closing it down. I guess they're $4.5 billion in debt or something. So crazy amount of money, and they're charging like $110,000 a month in rent for the theaters, which is crazy because I believe they conditions on like 10 years ago, 10 years ago. There's a major transformation over there. Maybe it was longer than that, but I thought it was AMC. Maybe it was Carmike that did that, and then AMC bought them out, or they rented it to AMC after that. But they added 3 new theaters on sometime about a decade ago. So I'm not sure who fronted the cost for that, but it was AMC that did that. Like, gee whiz, and they're still taking them for $110,000 a month. That's crazy. But yeah, it just goes to show how screwed up the economics are for filmmaking, especially now with the streaming and stuff. You know, the volume of people going to these theaters and stuff is down, even though it's an experience, right? It's an experience. That's kind of what you're paying for. Then on top of that, we saw Beatle Juice. It was alright. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and go, oh my goodness, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life, but it was neat because it's 30 years since the original. So anytime you have that long time span, and they brought the characters back, so it's cool seeing people, 30-year gaps. Like, I know people are like, oh, they got to make something new, they got to make something original, but these sequels that are, based on the original characters, we're still bringing the original characters back, is kind of neat. One of the people did pass away, though, so that made it a little more difficult, a little awkward, which they handled all right. They still had the character, but he was now dead in the movie, but then you go to the afterlife, so then they're not really dead, so it's like, oops, whoopsie with our premise. But good movie. After AMC on Sunday, went to run a 5K. Well, we went to church first, and the funny thing was the sermon was on unhook the trailer, right? So like if something's dragging you, keeping you from being all in for Jesus, kind of slowing you down. The analogy was that when he used to go to his son's ball games, there was another parent that would yell at the kid to unhook the wagon or unhook the trailer and run, because it was pulling it back, weighing it back. So I ran the 5K. That was kind of in the back of my head a little bit, unhook the trailer. I actually ended up running a PR. And I wasn't expecting it because I ran that race twice, and the loop for the race it's a 1.16 mile loop. And what we had done before is you ran it twice the first time, so it was way short of a 5K. Then last year they ran it 3 times, and it was way over a 5K. And it was just, I was prepared for either one when I came in, but credit to Carl Contract, who came in, kind of redesigned a little bit to get it to an actual 5K, and ended up, kind of changing my mentality a little bit. It's like, okay, well, it's going to be a legit 5K. There were 79 people there. They were handing out 20 awards. I'm like, maybe I can give me an award. Maybe I can give me a plaque, because I did not get one at the Betty Zane race. Just the 40 to 49-year-old range is stacked. Well, I ended up running a PR, 25:08. 8 seconds away from sub 25, which is, been my goal since I started running. It's hard. Like, I got to change something with the way that I run. But this was kind of a positive feedback for, I haven't trained all that much since I ran the Betty Zane race. I've run some, and I've tried to run, at a faster clip. I've tried to keep the speed up. But I've been doing some more resistant training, trying to get some strength up. My nutrition supplements, all that's obviously, it's still the same from the other race, but it's a change from where I've been in the past. So, getting a little bit closer. And this is a favorable course because it's all flat. I think it said there's like 12 feet of difference. I doubt it. I mean, it's flat. But it was still, good conditions. It wasn't too hot. Sunny, dry, just, kind of really ideal conditions to go run in. And I just kind of had that picture from being on the boat the day before, knowing what those guys have been through. I was like, all you got to do is just go run 3 miles. Like, the become a machine here for a little bit and just keep turning it out. I actually ran the whole race, which is I've run 3 miles before. I've never run it in a race. Usually I get the heart rate up too high, but this it stayed down until I got close to the end. And when I flipped that 3 mile thing and I got the feedback from the watch, I was at 24:20 or so. I just could not get that last quarter of a mile in 40 seconds, or last tenth of a mile. So just an 08. But I'm still, super happy with that. I ended up finishing 8th overall, and there was one young runner ahead of me and there was one female ahead of me. So they did something for the top 5 male finishers, and I was 6th. So I finished one spot out of getting a plaque for the first time in that race. And I told Dina beforehand, I was like, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to finish one spot out. So self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know. I could have been worse. I could have woed way up, but I was happy with the run. Really, really happy with it. Surprising, honestly, but a good surprise. And then after that, I went and played disc golf at the Wheeling Island disc golf by the marina, which I hadn't played before. I'd wanted to play it for like about the last year or so because I've seen it over there, and I just had not been able to make it. And finally, just like, I was gonna watch the Browns, but they were sucking, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go play disc golf. So I did, and I got it in, and it turned out pretty good. So happy with that. Oh my goodness. Looks like this might be closed. Alright. Well, we'll see what's going on here. That's all I got for today. Be careful, be COVID free. Later.